Good to see you in here. I'm in the coaster. Before I get going with what I'm going to do today, just a little side note. In the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, what did I manage to do? I caught ordinary influenza, so the voice is going to be a bit more grating than normal, and it's going to be even more puffy and panty. But I've got to change the batteries in the coaster, the house batteries. I've already done the starter batteries. I did that a couple of months ago, and now it's the turn of the house batteries. On the last trip they failed, which made it very, very entertaining trying to keep the fridges going. In fact, we've still got the freezer going in here at the moment, but we're hooked up to mains power, so it doesn't matter. I installed a new regulator because that was playing up as well. So we had the trifecta. We had the batteries playing up, we had the regulator playing up, and of course the cooling system as well, which has been playing up now for about a year or so. We record the radiator, done all sorts of things to try and get it fixed. It's going back again next Monday, see if we can work out what's going on. But anyway, that's beside the point. The regulator was a fairly minor problem. It was just a wiring issue, but it was at the connector to the regulator, and it's an old PWM, so I want to get rid of it. I've already installed a new MPPT regulator, which I'll give you a quick look at shortly. But the main job this morning is to get the old batteries out and put the new batteries in. Now what I've done this time, I've got some full rivers. We've been running those for a while on the four-wheel drive, and I'm pretty happy with them. So we're going to put those in here. We're replacing the old ones, which are Bosch. They've been pretty good actually. They've lasted quite a few years, but full rivers are a notch up, I guess, from the Bosch ones, and they're not cheap. I haven't gone to lithium because I've got other charging gear that I'd have to replace. We've got DC to DC charger and other bits and pieces that we would need to replace if I went lithium. So decided not to do that. I'm going to stick with AGM. Despite the advantages of lithium and the fact that they would be way, way, way lighter than these things, but they do cost a lot more, at least if you buy decent quality lithium. These ones cost me about 960 bucks, so that's for two 120 amp hour full rivers. Not cheap, but they are good quality American batteries. So we'll get to it. Okay, first job is going to be to move the table and open up the back area, so I'll get onto that now. Okay, for those of you who've seen the coaster before and may remember the electronics up here, the old PWM regulator used to be in here. Now the wiring is such that these are fairly short, and the new regulator is too big to fit in here. So what I've had to do is extend the wiring. So I've taken the existing wiring coming out from the back of this panel, I've had to extend it through there, down under the cupboards, and the new regulator is down in here. That's an EP-Ever. It was about 160 bucks, which is relatively cheap for an MPPT, but it's a proper MPPT. It's not like the El Cheapo junk you see on eBay. Now, how to spot a fake one? The cheap ones are about that size. They're about the same size as a PWM. And the reason for that is they're not proper MPPTs. The people who are selling those things are liars. At least almost all of them are. There may be some genuine ones, but it's not worth taking the risk. When you're buying MPPT, look for a proper branded one. EP-Ever are good. And look for this size. They are big regulators. They're not small. If it looks small and cheap, it's almost certainly a PWM with MPPT stamped on the front of it. And eBay is full of absolute junk when it comes to regulators. So today we will be lifting this up, and under the back of here are the two old AGMs which I have to pull out. it should be a fairly simple process of just lifting the old ones out, which will be fun. It's a fairly confined space, and popping the new ones in, tightening it all up, and we're off. So let's get going. Okay, before I actually get started on doing the batteries, I thought it might be worthwhile just having a look at the EP Ever. And you can see the display there. Normally the backlight isn't on. As you can see, that turns off. Just press a button to bring that up. And you can flick through to the display. It will go through every 5 seconds on its own. Not much going in at the moment. The batteries in theory are fully charged, but they won't hold the charge because they're no good. As you can see, they are, even with the charging on. Let's have a look. Oh, they're sitting. Let's wait till we get to the right thing. Okay, so the top one I'm cycling through at the moment is the solar. So if I press the solar button, the one that's associated with solar, I can flick through the solar display and see what's going on. So many watts going in, so many watt hours, 18.6, 80.7 volts coming in from the panels, and only 2.5 amps. The next one will show me the battery readings. It's sitting at 13.8, 13.9, which you think, oh, perfect, good charge. But you have to realize that that charge is a surface charge only, and the minute you start using it, they drop like a brick. So one or more cells in them has died, which is rather sad. And of course you have you can cycle through on the bottom one. Nothing going on with the load at the moment. The load is now on. You can see I've turned the load on with this button here, and if I that turns on and off, and I can just cycle through that, and it's showing no amps. If I turn something on like a fan, a bit noisy. Okay, so that turns the fan on and off, and you can see that's drawing 0.6 of an amp. So a good little display. It's set up so that you get a fair bit of information from it. Let's turn that off. Also has a couple of USB ports down here, which is a handy extra. I suppose most of them are having those these days. And we've got the connections in down the bottom. I'm probably going to get some light coloured covering to go over the wires that have got to come down from here. But all fairly neat. I'd rather have that wrapped up in some kind of white or beige coloured cover, just to make it a little bit less visible. But the TV will actually come across here most of the time anyway, so it won't be that visible. But anyway, that's just a really brief overview. I'm not going to do any in-depth reviews of that. It's Regulator. It works like all regulators work. And if you're really interested in it, you can look up the manual online. The connection here, that's to hook it up to a computer if you want to do that. I can't see any reason to do it, but I'm sure some people may find that that's useful for something. Okay, back to changing those batteries over. And down in there you can see the various charging devices. We've got 24 volt to 12 volt DC to DC, comes from the engine. We've got a shore power, and we've got shore power chargers for the starter batteries and for the house batteries. And here of course are the two Bosch batteries that I need to change out. So we'll switch everything off for the moment, make as much room as I can in there, clip all the zip ties that have been holding everything relatively neatly together, get the straps off, and then we'll pull those out. Now, because this isn't going to be particularly interesting to watch, I'm just going to shut the camera off now and I'll come back as I'm about to bring these batteries out. Okay, so what will happen here, I've got a roll of tape, and as I take these wire bundles off, you just tape around them, then tape them up to keep them out of the way, lift the battery out, put the new one in, boom boom, back on. You're not missing any wires. A wire hasn't fallen off somewhere and is hiding down the side of the box so that you miss it and later on regret having not taken the time to use a bit of tape. I find that makes life a lot easier. So if you're ever doing this sort of job and you've got bundles of wire on there, you want to keep them all together, just whack a bit of tape around. Really makes it easy. Doesn't have to be particularly neat because you're going to take it all off later. All it has to do is hold it out of the way for now. And we're just doing one at a time. Don't want to have things too complicated. Here goes the fun bit. This is going to be heavy. And believe it or not, the full rivers are even heavier than the Bosch. Pop that in. Same thing on this side. Might seem like a bit of a waste of tape, but I guarantee you, if one of those wires gets away and hides while you're doing this, you really don't want to have to come back later when something's not working and work out where it went. Okay, that's number one done. And we just simply repeat that for the second one. Thankfully they've mounted it so it's not right under the back there, it's just accessible so you can just pull it straight out. And that will be the job done. Nice and easy this morning. Just check our readings on the regulator. And it's just going to cycle through 14.3 volts. So it's showing that the batteries are fully charged anyway, which they should be. So very little going in from the solar panels. All that looks fine. Okay, down here we've got the remote for the inverter. The inverter's in the boot. And okay, so it's working fine. So things to check would be the water pump, which I've turned on. Yep, water pump's fine. Internal lights, they're fine. On a different circuit, the fans, okay, they're fine. We have another inverter up here which runs the TV, just a little one. Don't want to run a huge inverter, just to run something as small as a TV. Okay, so that's working fine. Not really much else I need to check. We have the exhaust fan up here, that's a 12 volt and that's working fine. I have a 12 volt connection to the fridge and of course that's still on, so that's fine. And I've got a new outside light that I installed recently, so I'll check that. Okay. Now, I've never known what this light is connected to, but that's okay. We have a dodgy little light in the toilet shower. It's a dunny. This one is very temperamental. There we go. And I'm going to replace that one very soon, because you cannot rely on it. Sometimes it works out, there you go. Sometimes it works perfectly, other times it won't come on at all, so it's very irritating. So there's a new one coming for that. It's already been ordered. Okay guys, well that's it for this little job. All done, neatened up again, and hopefully we won't have any more battery issues for quite some time. These are the starter batteries that I put in just before the last trip, where we had house battery problems. The old starter batteries had given up and were charging without ever getting full. So what I've done this time, just to make sure that they don't go flat accidentally, I've actually put a small solar system onto them, as well as having the normal engine charging and 240 volt and 220 volt when we're parked up at the house. So we've got a small solar panel inside that we can put out on the dashboard, and that will just keep power coming into them if we're away from 220 volt and we're parked up for a while, because there's nothing else that charges these. This is a PWM regulator. It doesn't really matter that it's not an MPPT on here. It's not going to do much work. And you can see in here we've got a fuse just in case, and not much to that. That's just wired into the starter battery system. We do have a couple of little USB ports. They all seem to have those these days, but I doubt they'll ever get used. Maybe if we're sitting out, we want something charging on a table out here. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We just put that between the little solar panel and the batteries, just as a one more attempt to keep things running. And of course, being a 24 volt system, there's two 12 volts here wired in a series. So 2 12s is 24, and that's what the old coaster needs to get going. We've been upgrading everything in the coaster, and with regards to the power system, mostly because we've had a couple of failures recently. The starter batteries went, and in quick succession after that the house batteries went. The starter batteries I was a bit disappointed in, because they hadn't been in more than a couple of years. I suppose you can't expect too much, but the house batteries were pretty good. Now this is regarding starting this little thing we're looking at here. This is a lithium powered jump starter, and as you can see on the back, it has some jumper cables. Not particularly long jumper cables, so you've got to be able to get it close enough. And this one was a little bit expensive, $369 from JCar. And the reason we went for this one is it does 24 volt as well as 12 volt. Now obviously most cars and most vehicles, small vehicles, are 12 volt, but the coaster is 24, so we need that extra power. It's relatively light. Being lithium, it's not like the old brick ones that you used to get that, oh, you know, do a muscle in your arm as you picked it up. So it's fairly light. Hopefully the battery they're putting in these is decent. I really don't know if their longevity is that good. I'm crossing my fingers because it was expensive. But it's got a few little options on there. Let's have a quick look. Okay, you've got a USB. You've got a USB charging port here if you need to use it for something. It'll work as a portable power source for, I don't know, your phone, your cameras, that sort of gear. And a little on button there, we can pull this out because she's fully charged. It charges up from mains power. It detects automatically what kind of power source you attach to. And you can see here 12 or 24. That's your DC in. So really simple to operate, not much to think about. Got a couple of lights there if you need a little bit of extra light and you're working on something at night. Not much to it really. You just got your jumper cables, what you can see on the front there, and not much else. So with a bit of luck we won't need it, but it's like insurance. It's very nice to have if everything goes wrong and you do need it. And there we have everything back the way it should be. As you can see, the TV's in place, and you can't see the new regulator behind it. All back to our nice neat selves. Okay guys, thanks for watching. That's a wrap on this one. Quite a simple job to get done, nothing too dramatic apart from lifting those amazingly heavy batteries. Believe it or not, the full rivers are a lot heavier than the Bosch. But well, the next job now is to get the cooling system sorted. As I said earlier, that goes in next Monday, and I really hope they find the problem, because it's really starting to impact when you go away on a 2-week trip and you're back within 4 days because you can't get anywhere without losing coolant. That's a real hassle for us, and this has been going on for some time now. We got away with it in September because the coolant loss was fairly minimal, and I thought it was just air gaps or something in the pipes working their way through, which is a reasonable thing to assume. But this trip we lost 5 litres of coolant between Rockingham, Bridgetown return, so the 5 litres of coolant is a big drop. Yeah, it was lost over, you know, several days, but still, that's worrying. You can't have that going on. So cross our fingers, hope they get it sorted out this time, and we hope to see you back here again once we're on our next trip. No idea yet where that's going to be. I'd love to go back out to the goldfields this winter, but we'll see how things go. Thanks for tuning in and having a look at our crazy antics that we get up to from time to time. And see you back here again on Saturday for our Patreons. You'll be getting this video a little bit early, so hope you've enjoyed it. And everybody who isn't subscribed to our YouTube channel and you like what we're doing, please subscribe. It does help us a lot. We don't get a lot of notice from YouTube because we're still a fairly small channel. I've been doing this now for what, 12 years? And seriously, for I don't know, 5 or 6 years we've been putting up a lot of videos. We're up to 717 videos with this one, I think. So that's a lot of content for you to watch free of charge. And if you enjoy it, please subscribe, because YouTube doesn't take any notice of us at all because we're still very, very tiny. We got a ton of content, we get a lot of views, but we need those subscribers. It's really, really important. Even if you don't watch every video we put out, if you're on our subscriber list, it just builds up our profile in YouTube. So please do that if you can, and we'll catch you all again next Saturday morning. Cheers guys, see you on the road.